Donald Trump has been threatening to shut down the border between the United States and Mexico. This is a threat that has become all too common with the Trump administration. However, there would be significant ramifications for the US economy, particularly for the auto industry. Take a look at some of the business owners in El Paso, Texas.
For us as a company, it'll affect it a lot because 75% of our customers are restaurant owners and grocery store owners. So down the line, it's just going to affect everybody.
We might even have to close down, for that matter. We might have to close down 50% of the businesses in the United States as far as the produce is concerned.
It would be devastating to El Paso, the state of Texas, and the United States. We're the 10th or 11th largest land port out of the United States. We have 101 billion annually going in imports and exports. It would be a devastating impact to the entire region, but also to the United States as a whole.
So I have some more numbers to share with you guys. Kristen Zizek is the Vice President of Industry, Labor, and Economics at the Center for Automotive Research. And so she's been talking about the press and letting everyone know what kind of impact this will have on the auto industry. And the results are gonna be pretty devastating. So about 16% of all auto parts used in the United States, both at assembly plants and sold at auto parts stores, actually originate from Mexico. So if you shut down the border, it's gonna have an impact on the imports and exports when it comes to this industry. And she also says you can't sell cars with missing pieces, you've got to have them all. I see the whole industry shut down within a week of a border closing.
If you're a Republican and you never thought this through and you think, well, I mean, why don't we close the border? I don't want those people coming in. Trade. So first of all, there's legal citizens, American, Mexican, going back and forth endlessly. And I get it, you never thought through the issue, but just think about it for a second. But even if you don't care about the people, and the legal migration back and forth, which you pretend to care about because you said, I just don't want undocumented immigrants, right? Illegal immigrants you pretend to like. But remember, Americans also go to Mexico to close the border entirely. But the trade would be devastating. I want to give you more numbers. We import, just the US auto industry imports $59.4 billion worth of parts from Mexico. And then on top of that, it also exports $32.5 billion worth of parts from US automakers and parts manufacturers to assembly plants operating in Mexico. So now that means we're gonna cost ourselves $32 billion that we would make from trading in Mexico. But even more importantly, we're not gonna be able to make any cars. So a lot of the parts that we use that come from Mexico are laid down first in the cars. It's the wiring. So you can't add it later. It just all production grinds to a halt. Almost all the wiring comes from Mexico. Oops. So now, of course, here we go again. Republican leaders going to Donald Trump saying, please don't be stupid. We're begging you to consider the actual ramifications of this. Can we show it to you in pictures? Can we just show it to you in a page? Is there any way we can get through your incredibly thick skull how much damage this would do?
Right.
The automakers are saying we would have no cars produced in this country within 1 week. It would end complete production of cars.
And one other thing I want to note is, I was curious to see how members of the right wing were approaching Donald Trump on this subject, because most of them are panicking about the impact it's gonna have on our economy. I mean, remember, there are a lot of right wingers in the auto industry, in all these various businesses that are gonna be negatively impacted by shutting down the border. And so what they do is they appeal to Trump and one of his most popular talking points, and that is, the economy's doing so well under my watch. Look at how good the stock market's doing. Look at how well everything's going. The jobs numbers are great. And so they bring that up and they appeal to Trump by saying, hey, you can't brag about that if you single-handedly destroy the economy by shutting down the border. And to your point regarding, people who think, what's the big deal? Let's just shut down the border, well, then no one will come in. Okay, it's fine. I don't think it's really fine, but if you're a private citizen who might not be knowledgeable about the impact of shutting down the border, that's one thing. But this is the president of the United States who has absolutely no knowledge and has absolutely no intellectual curiosity into what the consequences would be. And that's the devastating part of this, that you need to have members of his own party who we usually disagree with checking him and trying to keep him under control when he tries to carry out these incredibly ignorant policy ideas.
I think he might do it. So it's unconscionable. I mean, there's no rational person would do this because the markets would flip out, let alone everything else. And that's his pride and joy, his innocence. Why are we even still having this conversation? And because there are only two issues that Donald Trump cares about or knows anything about. Everything else he says, well, nobody knew healthcare was this complicated. Nobody knew North Korea was this complicated because he just doesn't care, right? But the two issues he cares about are immigration, stopping immigration, and his wrong-headed thinking that if I just stop trade, it will reduce our trade deficit. And that way we'll make more money because we'll stop losing money to Mexico. Now that's not true, that doesn't make any sense. But no one can get through to him. So that's why I'm beginning to think, oh my God, like even me who thinks he's one of the dumbest people in the country, like you can't be so stupid as to close the border. But now I think, wait a minute, I think he is.
I have learned to avoid making predictions about what Donald Trump is and is not going to do because we don't know. He's always a wild card, right? I mean, you think he's gonna carry out a crazy policy idea and then he backs off because Mitch McConnell of all people talks some sense into him. I don't know what he's gonna do, but what I do know is that it will hurt the economy and it would be another layup for the Democratic Party. So who knows?
And that's the third reason why he might do it, because he's feeling heady. Mueller was a total incomplete. Did you read the report? It's 400 pages. Did you read it, Mr. President? It's complete and total exoneration. It means that I make all the right decisions. It has nothing to do with your decisions, Mr. President. It has to do with the Russia investigation. No, it means I have gotten everything right. So I have this instinct. You close the border, you make money, and you stop the Mexicans. So given his haughty nature right now and those two issues, he just might be stupid enough to do this. In which case, about 3 days before the collapse is so significant in the markets that he comes back and goes, you know what? I'm gonna stop the Democrats from closing the border down.
Yes. I mean, that is one prediction that I can guarantee. So if he is dumb enough to shut down the border, after realizing it was a bad idea, he will blame the Democrats.
I am going to, you know what, American people? I alone can protect you. I will reopen the border, okay? Because I am that good a leader.
You are on a roll today with the Trump impressions.
I have strong, beautiful Trump impressions, the best. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.